What do? I'm a racing driver and a racing driver coach. I loved cars since I was, I think, 3 or 4 years old. I knew all the brands when I was walking on the parking lot of the supermarket with my granddad. He pointed at the logo and I had to tell the brand of the car. From then onwards, I kind of grew into it. Then when I got older, I got PlayStation, and on the PlayStation I played Gran Turismo like for hours together with one friend. When we got off school, we got into our simulator, and then a simulator was like a desk with a really old Logitech G25 steering wheel, and we would race for hours online. And that's why I loved racing. My dad did it as a hobby in real life. Low-level racing, just as a hobby with an old BMW E36. At that moment, I think for my 15th birthday, he got into contact with Mark Schipper, owner of GP Elite. At that time, GP Elite was a really small company, only Mark, a van with some cones in it, and he laid out the cones in a track, and there was a drift course. So I got a drift course for my birthday. At the beginning I had to learn how to shift because I was 15, never drove a car. And at the end of the day I could drift the whole track. From then onwards, my dad said and Mark said, and luckily I said as well, that we had to do something with it, so progressed into a racing career. Especially at the beginning, what Mark saw in me was a little kid with a way too big mouth. My mouth was way too big. My ego was too big. I was like, I can beat anyone, but I didn't have the proper funding. So I think when I was younger, I made a lot of mistakes. At that moment, we've all seen Larry at GP Elite, and Larry was the foundation of the success of GP Elite and Porsche Cup. We were racing together in Formula Renault in 2013, and he just had a bigger drive. And for me, it was like, I want to do the same thing, but I don't want to sacrifice as much as he did at that moment. I wanted to go to high school, wanted to go studying. And I think the more I aged, I stayed on with the GP Elite as a coach. Het is heel erg duidelijk hebben wat je taak is en wat je zult gaan merken met een nieuwe band. Een nieuwe band maskeert heel veel. Met een nieuwe band kom je heel veel weg. In my experience, there's no job more different than coaching. So every day you do something different. Video footage, data, but I can also feel what people are doing when I'm sitting next to them in the car, and then teach them accordingly. But one of the most important characteristic traits a racing driver needs to have is adaptability. If you train adaptability well enough on the sim as well, so change the conditions, make sure the track grip is different, make sure the car is different, setup-wise, that makes you a good racing driver. I think it's the most important trait to have as a racing driver. You can play FIFA and use a joystick, but it's never the same as kicking a ball. With racing, you have a steering wheel, you have pedals, so it's basically one-on-one the things we do, the inputs on a simulator with driving in real life. En de hele tijd elke bocht de rembalans aan het aanpassen. Dat doen we het echt ook. I think that's the way I can progress into proper coaching, and from then the proper coaching onwards, I've built relationships, and those relationships they expanded to also sponsorships. So I think that's what I like a lot about coaching, that if you really help people in a good way. So I've helped successful businessmen who've been working for 30 years in big successful companies, and then a 17-year-old has to tell them how to race on a track. At the beginning they don't believe you, and then you really get through to them, and you get a certain connection, and then they really believe you. And I think that's one of the key points for me in 10 years of coaching, that I've progressed into a more mature driver as well. And you earn the respect, and if you earn the respect, then you earn everything that comes on your path afterwards. I think that's what I like about coaching, just making people better on track, but also getting relationships out of it. On the dream that you can become a racing driver, it's only for the very few that can make it as a racing driver if you don't have the budget yourself. Expanding my motorsport dream to coaching and still being involved, seeing beautiful tracks, working with successful people, I think that was already the dream for me. And then now getting the chance to still be a driver again at 29 years old, that's a bonus. And I now have the feeling the last year that I'm really living my dream, and that's something I aimed for when I was 15, and something that the dream is coming true at I think it started last year at 28. 5 years ago. One of the GP Elite drivers said, I want you in the car as well, because I think if you drive a few laps as well, you can coach me in a better way. So for me, I got the opportunity to drive myself as well. From then onwards, of course, everything is also about funding. So I need to have people behind me that fund it. And one of those was René van der Zel from XXL Nutrition. Also a guy I was just coaching on track in a BMW, having fun with him during track days. At one moment he said, yeah, why don't you try and make a racing career out of it? So I asked him for Supercup Zandvoort. And then he said yes. And he wanted to have a full XXL livery, XXL car. For me, there was no other team to join than GP Elite. And do a one-off. I just wanted to cross it off the bucket list to drive my home Grand Prix, the Dutch Grand Prix. And but then it went really well. And I think that kick-started the whole career and I'm doing now. I'm away from home so much that I don't see my girlfriend as much as I see my team members. I think you need to have a really strong bond. It has to feel like family. Otherwise it will never be as good of a performance as it should be. If the driver is only as good as the team, especially Team GP Elite, they're focused on performance, the group of engineers, the group of mechanics, also how the team is managed. It gives me as a driver all the tools I need to perform. Like the backing I had from the team and the confidence I had from the team, I really wanted to give them something back because I knew the car was good enough to win. And then we won a race last year. It was against all expectations, but that's the thing with a good team. You gain confidence so fast that it's easy for me to extract the most out of my own potential. And I think everything we did together, GP Elite and myself, grew into this opportunity, me driving for them as well and fighting for a Porsche Supercup championship on the highest level. That's, I think, for me, it's the optimal dream.